All right. Good evening, everybody. It's time to get started. We start our meetings with a moment of silence, so please join me for that. And please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have Councilor Auger on the phone tonight, and it looks like we're missing, Rob Pell said he would be a few minutes late, so we have a proclamation tonight for Small Business Saturday. Whereas the City of Grants Pass celebrates its local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021, and whereas the City of Grants Pass supports its local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore I, Sarah Bristol, Mayor of the City of Grants Pass, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And I believe that Christy Swafford from the Chamber of Commerce is here to receive that. And if you wanted to say a few words, Christy, make sure that your microphone light is on at the base there.
I think it's on. Okay, thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me here tonight. On behalf of the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce, we gladly accept this proclamation. We appreciate the City of Grants Pass proclaiming November 26th as Small Business Saturday for our community, and it's also my birthday. Small businesses are the heart of our community. We encourage everyone to shop local on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. When you shop local, 68% of every dollar stays in our community. Now more than ever, these small businesses need your support. They create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. The Chamber serves as a neighborhood champion for Small Business Saturday every year. Once again, we'll be handing swag, free items to local businesses to decorate their storefronts and to hand out to their customers. Thanks again for supporting small business.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And we have a great little downtown and lots of other small businesses all around the city where people can shop. Thank you. All right. Council action. How about a resolution amending the Collaborative Economic Development Committee bylaws? Looks like Brad's going to come up.
Thank you. All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. I'm here sort of representing the CEDC. This is largely driven by that group, and you received a motion from them a couple of months ago. And so we're here tonight to talk about the motion that you received from your Collaborative Economic Development Committee. So the subject in summary, basically it's a resolution that would amend the bylaws. They've had the same bylaws for quite some time, and the group wanted to review and discuss those. So the relationship to your council goals is to encourage economic opportunities and provide cooperative shared leadership by establishing inclusive language, inclusive in this case referring to including the city of Cave Junction as a more specific called out jurisdiction, and then terminology to better reflect the representation. So they were created, they being CEDC, as a joint effort between the City of Grants Pass and Josephine County several years ago, and they continue to meet monthly, and they discuss and evaluate ways to improve economic development throughout the entire county. They do make recommendations on occasion to you, to the Board of County Commissioners, and to the City of Cave Junction. And as I mentioned, in September, they forwarded a recommendation to you to amend their bylaws. So I'm just going to quickly go through, starting on page 3 of your packet, yeah, you may be able to see it a little bit better there. I'm just going to highlight on the slides here the changes that they are recommending to you, and you can see a little bit more context in your packet. So starting with Article 1, they want to add the City of Cave Junction to the list of the CEDC jurisdictions. They really wasn't specifically called out. So they want to clarify that. In Article 2, they're recommending to insert the phrase both private and public sectors to clarify the services section. So this is the section of the bylaws that kind of talks about the types of recommendations, the types of topics that the committee will discuss and refer to you. So they did want to clarify that it would include both public and private sectors. And then you'll see a lot of strikeouts on the next 2 pages related to the examples of services, infrastructure, and workforce development and entrepreneurship. They just wanted, rather than getting specific, they wanted to keep those categories rather broad and open-ended. So that's the reason for recommending to strike those. In Article 2, it's just an update to the destination marketing organization to reflect the current name of Visit Grants Pass. Article 2, Section 3, this is adding again the City of Cave Junction to the list of cities who will receive recommendations from CEDC. There's some other cleanup language in there as well. In Article 3, Section 5, they are recommending a new responsibility for the CEDC chair to communicate with all government liaisons in developing agenda items. And I think the intent there is really to emphasize that there are the 3 jurisdictions, Cave Junction, Josephine County, City of Grants Pass, and just to ensure that there's a collaborative approach to creating the agendas for these committees, for this committee. Article 3, Section 5, this is changing the text of the 4th bullet in that section to strike the word constructive and make it read, guiding the conduct of the CEDC. Article 3, Section 6, this is recommending inserting the term consecutive for when 3 unexcused absences constitute a ground for removal. Right now, it just says 3 unexcused absences. The second bullet there in that section is to clarify that the chair can request the appropriate municipality to appoint a new member. Right now it reads that only the City of Grants Pass or Josephine County can do that. Article 3, Section 7, this clarifies that special meetings may be called by the committee or a municipality, meaning one of the three main municipalities, versus only Grants Pass or the county. Article 4, Section 1, this adds a new sentence. It states non-committee members with relevant expertise can be invited to join subcommittees. You'll see in your packet this is pretty specific about who can be on those subcommittees right now, and they wanted to kind of open that up a little bit. And then just two more. Article 5, Section 2, they're proposing to delete the sentence from the decision-making section there that reads, members must be physically present at the meeting to be entitled to vote, trying to reflect the hybrid format of meetings. And then there's a few other minor clarifying text changes that are in there that are really just consistent with the changes above. There really are no cost implications involved with this. Any expenses to do this are kind of absorbed by our current staff. Revenue section not applicable, and this is at your discretion.
Thanks, Brad. Council, do you have any questions? Rick?
Thank you, Brad. Slide 8. So members must be physically present, so that would preclude any phone-in or video, Zooming or anything to vote?
Well, this is actually a deletion. So they're proposing to delete that sentence, so they would be allowed to vote.
Okay, thank you. And then slide 5. Communicating with all government liaisons and developing agenda. You started to explain that, but what I heard you say or interpreted that the committee would communicate with Cave Junction, with the City of Grants Pass, and the Board of Commissioners liaison, but not necessarily the liaison on every single committee within those jurisdictions. Pave committee, solid waste committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, Brian?
Yeah, thank you. On slide 7, they're requesting the ability to have non-committee members join subcommittees. Do we have a precedent for that? Has that happened before? Because that seems, out of everything in here, that seems the most kind of outside the norm. So I was just kind of wondering what their rationale was for wanting that.
Yeah, and I unfortunately couldn't tell you rationale so much. Maybe Councilor Lovelace?
I'm the liaison, so I kind of went through this process with them. And I'm just going to say that basically what we've learned in a lot of committees, so if you have a subcommittee, you know, that you're looking into something, sometimes, and it says somebody with expertise, that you can invite them in to give you some of the expertise if you have questions or something that you want to know. That person on the outside is not going to make any motions and they're not going to do anything, but it's just basically if you're doing and looking into, say, Spalding, or they have somebody who's looking into it and they have a subcommittee of 2 or 3 members, they may invite somebody with expertise to come to their subcommittee meeting to give them some input. So that was their thought. That was the thought behind it, was just gather information, because nothing from the subcommittee can be done unless it's passed through the committee. So a subcommittee is just basically going out and gathering information about something, and that usually infers that you're going to probably be going out and asking questions. So that's the thought behind it.
So does that mean that they will be presenting to the subcommittee, or they will be a member of the subcommittee? Because it says invited to join the subcommittee, and so I'm not clear if that means if they're a member of the subcommittee or if they're just presenting as a expert, or if it even matters.
I don't know that it even matters, because as I said, a subcommittee is just basically to go out and gather information to bring back to present to the committee. So then at the committee, if they're going to do something with it, they make a motion to bring it to council, to the county, or whatever. So it's just opening up for more expertise, which myself as a council member, I truly appreciate being able to go out and get people with expertise in a field to gather more information. And if that means bringing them to talk and be a part of that subcommittee, I think it's valuable.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this issue? All right, we'll close public comment. Turn it back to you, council, for discussion. Val?
Well, I don't really know if I have a discussion. I think it's just kind of taking care of business that has been brought to us before for Wildtoast to look at. And I just think that they really are trying to get themselves organized to be a better fit for who they were set up to report to, which was Cave Junction. Actually, the sad thing is, a couple of meetings, it's just like the Cave Junction people are always here, and then the city people don't show up for the meeting, and that's a little bit frustrating. So they've kind of gone through some, new memberships and doing some things, and there's a group of people that are very excited to move forward. So I'm going to move to adopt the resolution amending the Collaborative Economic Development Committee bylaws.
Thanks. Is there a second? Rick? All right, any discussion on the motion? Joel?
So I understand what Brian's talking about, and it's kind of vague there when you say, what does that mean? Can be invited to join subcommittees, does that mean they vote?
A subcommittee doesn't vote.
Okay,
A subcommittee just
okay.
gathers information. It
So
is
they
the
just,
committee that
they
does-
just present
Yes.
and interact, and as long as, I guess that's understood by everybody and it's clear, I'm okay with that.
Well, I know when I was on the art committee, they often had subcommittees that they went out and gathered, and, they would meet with, people who doing art and, just kind of talk about it, but nothing,
Yeah.
everything has to come through the committee.
But
Nothing can be
my initial
decided by subcommittee.
Yeah, my initial reaction is that's implicit, and I would hope that every subcommittee would, if there's some resources in the community, reach out and become aware of those. So I think it's a good thing. I just want to make sure that the role is clear.
Well, if you have language to put in there that clarifies it, I would amend my motion. If it's going to stop it.
I guess my suggestion would be, I don't know that that sentence is needed, because committees or subcommittees can talk to other people when they're gathering information, and I think this does kind of imply that they would be a part of something, and it causes some confusion. But
I have no problem. I'm just saying that was the discussion that was behind it. So if that's something that people are concerned about and they're well aware that they can do that, just because other committees have subcommittees and do that, that's fine too. But I don't know that it's clear to everybody that they can do that. My experience in subcommittees have been that those who have subcommittees get the most done, because they take the time outside of just showing up at a meeting once a month, and actually take the time to get out and gather information and present. So that's why I just think it's a no-brainer that should happen. But if you feel uncomfortable having the words in there, we can amend the bylaws to remove that sentence.
I think it's just up to the council whether you want to have that expressly permitted, that other people can join a subcommittee. But as far as being a presenter, at any given meeting, of course they could do that. Rick?
So I want to discuss Section 2 on decision-making a little bit further. What I'm concerned about, when you remove the sentence, members must be physically present in the meeting to vote, does it leave the door open? In other words, it's implied that they may vote by Zoom, by phone, or in person, but can they vote by email? Can they vote by letter? But where does the line draw?
They're still having to follow public meeting law, because we're talking about the actual committee itself, which is a public body. And so you would need to be present, and present would include being online and being able to voice your yay or nay.
So the public law defines that.
Yes, yeah, you have to be present at the meeting, and present is associated with, you can do it via Zoom or on phone or in person.
Okay, thank you.
Joel?
Getting back to that first topic on proposed amendments for the non-committee members with relative expertise can be invited to join subcommittees. We could either delete it, and the message back to the committee is that certainly invite people with relative expertise to participate, or you could change it to say non-committee members with relative expertise can be invited to participate in subcommittees, and then and I guess subcommittees don't vote, so, but they're willing to participate, they're just not official members of the committee, of the subcommittee. And I'm not sure that the words are important, but words are important.
Brian?
I don't know that this needs to be in here. I mean, I think subcommittees have the ability to go out and talk to relevant experts without this language, and I think the part of this language I'm uncomfortable with it sounds like it's inviting non-appointed members to join subcommittees of committees where the members are appointed. So I feel like they already have the ability to reach out to experts and that we don't even need to have this.
What if we took out the word join? Would that make you feel better? I mean, non-committee members with relevant expertise can be invited to subcommittees. I mean, that's just kind of saying you have a subcommittee, you can have somebody who's there. But it just, to me, it's kind of a moot point because the truth of the matter is a subcommittee can't do anything without it coming back to the committee. So I think this is all about nothing because the subcommittee can't do anything. They can't pass anything. It's only the committee members that can vote. So, you know, if that makes you feel better, I think we could just take that out, the join. I think they're just trying to say, you know, we're a subcommittee. If we want to go out and get some valid information for people who have expertise in the field, we want to do that and clarify that that is important. And in this particular case, that I think was their point.
I think I would agree that if we took just the word join out, I would be comfortable with that.
Okay. Then I will amend my motion, because I made a motion. I move to adopt the resolution amending the Collaborative Economic Development Committee bylaws with taking the word join out of Article 4, Section 1 under subcommittees.
Okay, and Rick with the second. Okay. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, so Valerie made the motion to adopt the resolution, but with the amendment of removing the word join from Article 4, Section 1. Valerie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rob?
Abstain.
DJ?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Vanessa?
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0 and 1 abstention. All right. Next up, we have a consideration of a resolution that would authorize a purchase option agreement for real property to construct a future Meadow Wood Reservoir. Hi, Augustus.
Evening. All right, evening, Mayor Council. So this is a presentation for an option agreement with Fernwood Properties LLC for Meadow Wood Reservoir. Why are we doing an option agreement? So the city is seeking this option agreement with Fernwood for the purchase of 2 lots. They're currently lots 14 and 15 on which to build a reservoir. The final subdivision hasn't been platted. And so, and there's a lot of construction that's going to be going on, a lot of concurrent construction. So this agreement provides a little bit of flexibility for the parties and serves as a basis for a subsequent purchase and sales agreement. So this is the project site. As you can see along the left side, that's where the proposed tank is going to go. And you're looking at the top left portion of the property. That's going to be lot 14 or lot 15. And then the portion immediately to the south is going to be lot 14. So these are the essential terms of the agreement. It's going to be an option to purchase from Fernwood to the city. The city is going to pay a $40,000 option payment, which is going to be done in 2 installments. So the $25,000 will be upon execution of the agreement, with $15,000 due upon exercise of the option, basically stating that we're going to be purchasing the property for the set price. These installments will be credited against the final purchase price of the property at closing. The purchase price of the properties are $270,000 altogether, which means that after we pay the $40,000 option, will come with the remaining $230,000 to be paid at closing. The option term is going to be from the date of execution of the agreement through 11:59 p.m. on September 30th of 2023. The city is going to have a due diligence period that ends at 5:00 p.m. on June 30th of 2023. During that portion, the purchaser is enabled to terminate the contract at any time. However, the first option payment will be retained by the seller. The buyer may choose, the city may choose to exercise the option at any time. Will typically be done before due diligence is, or after due diligence happens, typically is when you exercise the option. The contract provides that the City Council is to provide necessary approvals for the proposed sale by March 1st of 2023, or the seller may terminate the option. The agreement itself is contingent on the resolution of exceptions, liens, and encroachments, of which there won't be, I don't think there are going to be any encroachments because it's a brand new subdivision. And the execution of a memorandum of understanding, which outlines the uses of the property, the timeline of development of the property, and the purchasers and the seller's obligations pertaining to the development. And we'll talk about that near the end. So next, the seller is going to provide a subdivision guarantee to the buyer showing the exceptions and encroachments, if any. Think of the subdivision guarantee as kind of the stand-in for the title report. The seller and the city will exchange writings on acceptable and unacceptable exceptions. The city can waive these exceptions in writing, so if there's a lien on there that the city decides they don't want to remove, they can waive it, not that you would. The seller has to remove any exceptions which encumber the property, liens, mortgages, tax liens, things like that. Closing is going to take place no later than 120 days after the option is exercised, with the escrow fees to be paid by the city, and the seller will provide title insurance. So after that point, when it pertains, after all of those essential terms, everything else is pretty much boilerplate, moving from Section 10 to the end of the contract. As far as the memorandum of understanding, this really marks what the sellers and the city's obligations are as it pertains to the development of the property and concurrent construction. So the memorandum outlines the obligations regarding the tank construction itself, landscaping, access to the reservoir, elevation, design review, installation of utilities and infrastructure, and curb, gutter, sidewalk, and asphalt installation. The city will be reimbursing the seller for water catchment and draining, construction costs and construction management fees of 8%, cost of the bond to guarantee completion of the improvements, and the reasonable cost escalation of those bonded improvements. The city will grant easements to Fernwood properties across Lot 14 to Lot 13, and an easement to get to Lot 16. The seller will apply for a property line adjustment at the common boundary between lots 13 and 14 and between lots 15 and 16. And the memorandum of understanding also has the schedule for construction under Section 7. So council's call to action is at your discretion. The call to action is to approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into this option agreement. With your alternatives to approve the resolution with adjustments to the option agreement or memorandum of understanding, or to not approve the resolution. And with that, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Joel?
Augustus, it might just be a wording issue. I'm not sure there's any substance to this, but under the purple page in our handout for today, under cost implication, it says sufficient funds for the property purchase and tank construction are available. But then the last sentence seems to contradict that just by omission, and maybe it was just worded wrong. Currently, sufficient funding is available for the property purchase, design services, and to begin construction of the reservoir. I would say there's probably enough funds there to finish construction of the reservoir, correct?
It's a question for Jason, I think.
That is not correct. We will have to add some additional funds in this upcoming budget cycle.
Okay, and those funds are from the water?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Rick?
Slide number 7.
I'm sorry.
Gus, is on the second bullet thing. City will reimburse seller for the water catchment and draining. That portion of the sentence confines that statement to the city and the seller, but because of the comma after that, construction costs and construction management fee 8%, that implies that only involves the city. It does not in any way involve the seller. Is that correct?
So the city is going to be reimbursing the seller for everything that's in bullet number 2. So that's water catchment and draining, construction costs, the construction management fee of 8%, the cost of the bond to guarantee the completion of the improvements, and the reasonable cost escalation of the bonded improvements. This is because in the creation of this subdivision, there's a lot of work that Public Works would have ordinarily done that has been completed by this developer, and so we're reimbursing them for those costs of that infrastructure.
Okay, but so those costs will be our main line for the water line. It won't be, the seller's not building the reservoir, the city's building the reservoir, correct?
That is correct. So this also is for, he is going to have to put in a temporary catchment, so like stormwater facilities, but they have to be very large because he has to flush out his portions of the water line, which are pretty extensive. And so to be able to do that and to push the pig out, he needs to build a very large catchment, but it's in a different location than it would be had he extended the main all the way to the end of his property. We're asking him to stop prematurely because that allows us to come in and do the work that we need to do. So as a result, he's having to incur extra expense. We are reimbursing him for those extra expenses, and that's what this line is saying.
So the 8% will cover just that portion of his extra cost?
Yeah, whatever he incurs plus the 8%, which is kind of his management fees, design fees, any profit and overhead will be in that 8%.
Then how do we monitor when you have a shared project that this is our cost and that's his cost?
He'll be submitting receipts and invoicing to us.
Okay, thank you.
Valerie?
Yeah, I think this question is for you, but it's about this, part of the 2016 distribution water. This is like the first step to be able to develop out there, am I correct? Because the development for water will not happen in that area unless there is a reservoir. I mean, I kind of read in there about the closed loop system, and it only has so much power, and so you need the reservoir to be able to do the future development in the area. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, you've hit almost all of the talking points I was just going to make.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the 2016 master plan identified this as our highest priority reservoir. We already have 240 connections on one pump station, which is excessive. And so what's happening is every time one of those 230 people turn on a sprinkler in their yard or flush their toilet, we turn on pumps to be able to supply that water. This reservoir is going to stabilize that water for those 230, and then the additional pump stations that are already working off that will also be able to be stabilized. This is a really critical reservoir that needs to be installed.
Okay, so it's basically the first step for development.
Yeah, the development is actually, a lot of it's already occurred. This will allow for further development. We're maxed out. We haven't shut it down, but we've been talking about it because we've got so many houses on that one pump station. They have some erratic pressure issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? DJ?
So Why an option agreement with 7 months due diligence? Why don't we just buy this piece of property?
That's a good question.
So, a couple of reasons. The first is, we still have some geotech work to do. He still is working on some of the lower plans, and we can't really buy the lots because they don't actually exist. So we have to wait until the final plat before we can actually sign an agreement for those tax lots, because they don't exist. The other reason is this gives us a little bit more time to make sure that this is absolutely the right location. We know it is, but it gives us a little bit more time to go poke some more holes in the ground, to finish the design, to make sure that the bore, because we actually have to bore this water line in. If you've been up to where this is, these properties are way up on the hill, and we're going to dig a hole down and then poke another hole in for the water line. So it really is a more technical project. We just wanted to give ourselves a little bit more leeway.
Sure.
And it gives him a little bit of earnest money to know that we're not going to walk away. It was important to him as the seller.
Sure, very good. That's sensible, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this issue? All right. We'll close public comment, turn it back over to council for discussion.
Thank you.
Valerie?
I'm going to move to approve the resolution to enter into the purchase option agreement for real property within the Pinnacle at Meadow Wood subdivision.
All right. Second from Rick.
I guess I should,
I was just
Okay,
trying to figure
I
out what
know.
the difference was between the two. I see. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All right. Valerie, you made the motion to approve the resolution, and how do you vote?
yes.
Rob?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. All right, next up, we have a resolution to consider a community development block grant for the Josephine County Children's Advocacy Center.
Good evening. I'm here also with Ann Ingalls, our Community Development Block Grant Administrator, as well as Tina Stafford with Josephine County. So they are both here and prepared to do this as a team effort tonight. I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights of where we're at with this grant, and then we have other resources here tonight to help out. So the summary of this item, this is a resolution that would authorize the disbursement of $100,000 grant to the Josephine County Children's Advocacy Center using program year, that's that PY is program year 2022 CDBG funds to assist with the construction of a new office building. You are aware of the site, it's kitty corner here to us, and you had several months ago authorized the sale of that piece of property. So this is a follow-up to that. It relates to really two main council goals: enhancing community safety and leadership involving council, staff, and community. So in mid-2022, the Advocacy Center approached Ann to inquire about the potential use of our CDBG funds to help out with the construction of their facility. We then contacted Heather, who is our CDBG HUD representative up in Portland, just to confirm that this was a legitimate use of CDBG funds, and she said it was. So we continued on with the discussions. The funds can be used to reimburse costs, but not until we have an approved subrecipient agreement. So as you'll see kind of at the end here, that's kind of related to your call to action. They are not permitted to proceed with any kind of construction using CDBG funds until a subrecipient agreement is in place and a notice to proceed is gone on. So, and that obviously could not happen until or if the council authorizes the grant. So on October 12th, the Urban Area Planning Commission issued its findings and approval for the actual site plan and the building. There were a couple of variances that they obtained as well. The use of the building is to house administration offices, provide on-site advocacy and forensic services. There's medical exam rooms, forensic interview rooms, therapy, conference space, and of course Tina and others could clarify for you more about what the exact use of the building will be, but that's taken from their application. They're not going to be used, the building will not be used for housing. And just a statistic that was in their information that was provided to the Planning Commission, they provide direct services to 243 children and their families. Here's a rough sketch of what the front of the building will look like. Definitely is a, kind of a mixed-use area here with some residential and office. So I think the architect has tried to strike that middle balance there between residential and office design. Here's a site plan. On the right-hand side of the screen is 5th Street, and then A Street is at the bottom. So they are proposing their parking here on the north end of the site, with the main front of the building facing 5th Street. There's a conference room in there. There's some landscaping. There will be a few trees that will be taken out, of course, and then some new trees installed along 5th Street there. So on August 3rd, the council reviewed and approved the annual action plan that we're in right now, the 2022 annual action plan. So the HUD years go from October 1 to September 30. So we are just kind of at the front end of this program year. And the plan that you approved did include a category called public facilities and ADA improvements. That is a non-housing community development activity. We've had that category in prior CDBG years that went with several unspent funds in those prior years. This category, these funds can only be used for projects like city and county-owned buildings. We used them for some park improvements in the past, things like that. So here's a snapshot of year 1 to 3 of the cycle that we're in right now with CDBG funds. And I believe a couple of counselors had brought this question up about what's the relationship between this money and the money that was authorized for home bridging for their subdivision, as well as the Habitat for Humanity project. So we just want included in your packet. The top highlighted line here you'll see is under the category affordable and decent housing. And again, these are categories that are approved in the annual action plan. This shows you the funding that was authorized for the last 3 years. And then the second highlighted row on this sheet is the public facilities ADA access. That's the category that we're talking about tonight. That had funded at $60,000 in the year 2020, $90,000 in the 2021-22 year, and then $25,000 in the current year that we're in. And then you can see the totals there for those 3 years. So those again are kind of show the difference between those categories. The former was what we used to fund the home bridging, and then the bottom one is what's proposed for tonight. So they are distinct categories. You can change funds around in the CDBG program, but that does require an amendment process. To date, the total amount of funding for home bridging and Habitat, there was a 2-phase approval there, so it's about $490,000 that has been issued to them. This graph shows, or table shows the category that we're talking about tonight, the public facilities and ADA access, and just the 3 years at $155,000. Some of that $155,000 has been used to fund a few other smaller activities that have been below the city manager's threshold, so those have kind of happened at staff level. The remaining funds as of today is $132,603. And since we're at the beginning of the program year, started October 1, staff's recommendation is to retain some of that funding so that if we do receive other requests in the next 10 months, we have some funding that could be there to work with and fund other ADA or public facility type projects. So that's kind of where we're at. To date, the activity over 3 years has been funded $175,000. I just went over that. One of the projects that was funded was the Boys and Girls Club. They had a gym floor project that was at $14,380. And then we also have some pathway projects and ramp projects, ADA ramp projects in Fruitdale and Morrison Parks that we're also using some of this funding. So the proposed budget for this, I'll just move to the next slide really quick. You can see here the Children's Advocacy Center grant expenses are outlined here. These are really the main eligible ones. Most of this, really should be used targeted towards the, construction type projects or construction type activities. So the total is $254,174. That the bulk of that though is a contingency line of 15%, which is wise from their standpoint, but from a CDBG standpoint, funding contingency, we at staff, we're not recommending that, but that still leaves well over the $100,000 in expenses that would be eligible even if you took out the contingency. So there is one additional expense that's also not reflected on there, which we discussed with the applicant after the fact, and that relates to a sidewalk. There's going to need to be some replacement of that sidewalk there on 5th Street. There's some buckling. So that's going to be probably estimated at $10,000. That would be, it's a part of the public infrastructure piece, so that would be eligible. These, since we're going back to this chart, essentially these are going to be a reimbursement type program, so they would come in with their receipts and expenses in terms of which ones they want to use for the CDBG grant. So as mentioned, the revenue source is CDBG. $132,603 is available in that particular category. The call to action date we have recommended as tonight. Mainly because they have received approval from the Planning Commission. They are close to coming in for building permits and would be gearing up to go. So that's the recommended that would allow them to kind of proceed fairly quickly. So there's 3 alternatives for you. You could authorize the $100,000 recommended grant. You could approve a different grant amount as long as it doesn't exceed the total that's available there, $132,000, or not authorize the grant.
Thanks, Brad. Council, do you have questions? Rick?
Thank you, Brad. So on page 42 of our report, it indicates a construction cost of over $1 million. Is that the entire project?
Correct. The table that I showed you earlier was just kind of the CDBG eligible type construction expenses, but yes, that's the total project.
So they'll be able to build the facility and put everything else in for that price? It seems.
That's my understanding. They can add to that.
That's good. Thank you.
Other questions? Val?
I just have a random question about the year. So our CDBG funds are based from, you said, October 1st through September 30th, is that correct?
Correct.
And so are we now in the 2023 year, or are we just now doing using up the 2022 funding? I'm just...
So we are in program year 2022, because
Okay.
that's, the year that, the calendar year that it started, but the funds that are available is actually an accumulation of the prior 2 years as well.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it's just kind of confusing, but okay, it's all good. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Was anybody else going to present, or? No? Okay. Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this?
Hey, Brad. Sorry. So you said the funds that are available are to some degree residual from the last 2 years? Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. So typically, what is an ending balance? Like the last couple of years, what were the ending balances? In other words, how much is carried forward from
Yeah,
prior
I might
years?
ask Ann to come up and speak to that question.
Ann Ingalls, City of Grants Pass. So, Councilor Pell, you're asking how much we have altogether from carryover years, or just for the public facilities?
Both would be great if you have those, if you know that off the top of your head.
Well, the public facilities is the 132,000. That is what we have sitting in public facilities right now. We have in our rehab category, which is not up there, but in one of the slides, I'm not sure. In our housing rehabilitation, we have about $240,000 that is from prior years. We're using that for rehabilitation of homes. Plus, we're also we have already begun our weatherization program. So we have the first 10 houses that we have already inspected. We met with the builder, Amber, Neek, and I did yesterday. And we have estimates for all the rehab for those homes, and that's what we'll be beginning in the second week of December. So it's just a matter of putting all the money together. I think it was 7 of those houses with all the rehab that we're going to do for them is coming in at $100,000. So that will leave us just about another $100,000 to work with. We had over 70 applications. So we're not going to be able to do all of them, but at least we can make some of them where they can still age in place. And then we also have Rebuilding Together, which has about 7 homes on the waiting list, and they're working on, I think, 4 right now. So the money is being spent down. So I would think by the end of this year, which will be this program year, September 30th of 2023, we should have almost all of our past year funds spent down and used. Okay?
DJ?
In that last statement, you said all those funds used, does that include the 32,000 remaining in the public funds?
It depends on what other projects we have coming in.
Sure.
At this point in time, I believe we just spent down, or we are going to spend down 22,000 for the 2 parks that we have projects in. And in talking with Josh at the parks, there may be a few other projects, so we can spend down that money as well.
Sure, that was my next question, is anticipated utilization of that remaining balance.
Yes,
for
and we
public
have a full
infrastructure.
year to do that. Yeah,
Good.
it'll be, 10 more months then. And I know Josh had mentioned a few of the playgrounds for improving the equipment there for ADA accessibility for children who are, disabled.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other questions right now? Okay. Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this? Please come up and tell us your name and whether you live in the city or who you're representing.
Is it on? Did I get it on?
The light will be on if it's on.
It's on, okay.
Okay.
My name is Heather Yerrick. I live in the county. I'm not a city resident, but I am employed by the city and have been for over 16 years now with the City of Grants Pass Police Department. For the last 12 years of my employment with the city, I have worked as a detective, primarily focusing on child physical and sexual abuse cases. I have dedicated not only my professional life, but my personal life as well to helping and protecting children. And at the core of my personal and professional mission is the Children's Advocacy Center. When I was first assigned as a detective, the CAC didn't have a full-time interviewer on staff. Luckily, that has changed. But what that meant is that as investigators, we had to do all the child forensic interviewing ourselves. As such, I've personally interviewed hundreds of children at the Children's Advocacy Center. I have heard the horrors of physical and sexual abuse come out of the mouths of children in that building. I have seen children arrive at the CAC scared and unsure as to what their future holds, and I've seen them leave with a smile on their face and hope in their eyes. The CAC offers an opportunity for most children to tell their secret for the very first time. It is a place of safety and healing for a child who may not have a safe person or a safe place in their life. Although the CAC currently operates under the umbrella of Josephine County, it is a resource that is used constantly to service the children residing in the city of Grants Pass. In 1 year alone, I personally interviewed approximately 100 children, which was more than 5 Oregon State Police detectives handling Josephine County cases combined. The CAC is and will continue to be a valuable asset and resource to the city. I encourage this council to award the Community Development Block Grant to the CAC. If there is any organization deserving of such an award, it is the CAC. This organization gives something to children that no other organization in the community can. Gives them everything that this organization gives them: hope, safety, understanding. So if it were up to me, I would say give them everything they ask for and more, and help make this new CAC a beacon of hope and stability for the most vulnerable in our community, which is our children. It is our community's children that will truly benefit from any award that is given tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak tonight? All right, I will. Coming up? All right.
I can identify with that.
From the CAC. I'm Chrisanna Albrecht. And formerly I had my long career with Women's Crisis Support Team, which you probably saw me up here several times. And after retiring in May of 2020, I joined this team as a part-time advocate, which is a passion that I've always had. And so I got to work with the kids and the families. And one of the things that I've really found, we're in right now a little 900 square foot building. And so my job is to greet the families and the children, make them feel at home and comfortable, and get them ready, the child ready to be interviewed. And once that's done, I don't have a place to send them for, I mean, we can send them to options or to private therapists, but the goal of this new building is to have it all under one roof. It is just so vital, because once they leave our office, you know, it's hard to know. I mean, we can make phone calls and follow up, but it is just vital to have it all under one roof. And right now, our medical provider, Dr. Kelly Burnett, she has to use a nurse practitioner's office to do the forensic medical exams. So we go up there and do those when they're needed. But so this is all to just make it all under one roof and be able to really provide the community with the services that we need to serve the children of our community. And I get to do the stats. And so I was running them thinking about this meeting, and I would say 75% of the children that we serve are city residents. So I just want you to be aware of that, and just know that we're doing great work, and we value all the support you can give, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Was there anyone else who wanted to speak on this?
What's that?
All right, I'll close public comment and turn it back over to council for discussion. Valerie, you're in the
Yeah,
lead
here we go.
tonight.
Yes, I'm just one of this. I know it's going to be a long night, so I want to get her done. And I see absolutely no reason why not to do this because the need is there. It's important. So I move to authorize a $100,000 CDBG grant to the Josephine County Children's Advocacy Center, conditioned on the applicant entering into a subrecipient agreement with the city of Grants Pass.
Is there a second? Kurt, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Val, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
All right, motion passes 8-0. All right, thanks for being here tonight. Next up, public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the city council on items not related to a public hearing or council action item on tonight's agenda. The intent is to provide information that is pertinent to the city's jurisdiction. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the council as one body, not to individuals. At the conclusion of public comment, council will have an opportunity to respond. This meeting will proceed in an effective and courteous manner. Citizens and council members will be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free from slander, threats, or other personal attacks. Signs or placards, outbursts of applause, campaigning for public office, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. If you have a question regarding any government-provided service or a current city policy, please contact the city manager's office in an attempt to resolve the matter. And first up tonight, I have Stephen Nelson. Steve?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. This is a follow-up letter since I've been speaking from 2015 until now. I've been attempting to get city officials to see the importance of safe and legal demolition projects. Certain developers and contractors have for years taken the path of least resistance, which has been fast and careless demolition without the more costly safeguards, such as hazard removal prior to starting demolition projects, and also water truck mitigation of hazardous airborne particulates. Asbestos, which is regulated, is not the only potential airborne hazard. Common hazards include fiberglass insulation, which is a composite material consisting of glass fibers and a formaldehyde resin, hence the wording fiberglass. And other hazards are toxic black mold, rat and mouse contamination, lead, meth chemical residue, and botulism toxin found in soils, which can become airborne in dust and hazardous to infants. City officials need to write a letter which states the requirement for safe and legal demolition projects, and noted hazards should include each of those mentioned. The letter should state all potential hazard mitigation as a requirement of the law. The letter should then be sent to all developers and contractors. Also, that letter should be available to the public for reading. I won't stop until the city officials put teeth in this law. This is common sense. It's far too important to not see the value of enforcing this law. It's about health of the community. So I'm asking you here and now, put some teeth in this law and make it happen, please. Thank you.
And Rika Brown.
Rika Brown, 1415 Southwest Bridge Street. I've been going to some meetings about what people can do for to get something going for the homeless. And I made up a new leaflet that I will be spreading around to businessmen first and then residents. We can fix this failure to serve the least of us. The city should not have to financially support people, except their employees. They should not have to pay for shelters and, give all kinds of grants to people to help charities, help other people. This is a matter of the market. This is a market failure that cannot be covered by charity. And so we will build a couple hostels that are big enough to cover the problem. And we will sell stock to build the buildings and charge the people who want to stay at these hostels a reasonable price for the service they get, and low enough that anybody can pay it. $5 to $10 a day comes to about $150 to $300 a month. That's pretty reasonable rent when you can get everything you need in that one place. And everything but food. But then people don't get food from their landlords, do they? And everything but privacy, except in the shower and the bathroom. But then we can't afford to sell privacy. It takes too much space. And so we can fix this. What I ask you as a city, as a council, is to not treat us different from other businesses in the same class, and to give us the same advantages as the charities have in trying to help people get out off the streets. And there are business grants granted to help get things going or to expand businesses. This is what you can do, is not put up barriers against us. Thank you. And I have a new leaflet.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak during public comment tonight? All right. Council, did you want to respond to public comment tonight? Brian?
Yeah. Rika and Stephen, come and make comment often. And Stephen's comments, we keep hearing about the same issue again and again and again. And I know that there's been times where DJ has asked about it and Valerie has asked about it. And I don't know enough to know why it keeps coming up and why it seems to be something that we can't solve. So I don't know what to do about it personally, but why can't we, it seems like, something that can be resolved. So I guess I would lean maybe to DJ or Valerie, but, it sounds like it's not getting resolved and I don't really understand why.
I recall actually, I think the last business meeting when he did bring it up, I did ask, and we had a discussion and asked the city to do that. So I don't know if that's been started or whether it's happening or what, because I do remember the conversation we had.
So as we talked about last council meeting, we are going to be sending out a draft. We're going to be sending out a letter to all the contractors with regards to demolition process and safety, et cetera. We do have a draft form right now. Brad's going to be reviewing that and we're going to be getting that out. When we get that out, or right before we publish it, if you'd like, we can also provide you with a council memo that gives you additional background on just demolition issues, try to put together how that relates to what Mr. Nelson has been talking about to you, and provide that along with a copy of the notice that'll be going out to the contractors.
Okay, thank you. And I will say, Steve, it does take a while for things to get done, but we did actually have that discussion at the last meeting, and it's being worked on.
Karen, how about the email update?
So there was one email regarding park campers, 8 emails following up on the Elks Lodge building, and 1 suggesting a homeless study be done.
Thanks. All right, next up, consent agenda. These are items of such routine nature without controversy they may be approved with a single action. And item H, it looks like, JC is going to give you a little briefing on that.
Maybe not. All right. Good evening, Council. Sorry I'm bringing this to you, just a little bit of a weirdness because and I'll go through this. This is new, which is why I'm bringing it to you as a starred consent agenda item, but probably as we move on, this will be the last time that I'll come and talk unless you prefer me to walk through month in and month out our investment portfolio. So the subject in summary is to create a separate, more transparent report that more closely aligns with the investment policy. And your relationship to council goals is to provide cooperative shared leadership involving council staff and community. So why the report? Bookkeeping timing. So you guys have still not seen the June of 2022 report, which it would normally go with. I still don't have the thumbs up for the auditor, so you're still going to have to wait for that financial report. So the thought is to split these because these can kind of be done more readily. We do have a new investment advisor as of October 1st who started our contract. And so this is an easy kind of segue into showing what they are doing and why they're doing it. And as well as there's some investment policy reporting requirements. And not to say that these aren't being done right now, but there are some individualities here that we probably don't put in the current report. And so the reporting requirements that are supposed to go to you on a monthly basis are a listing of transactions occurring during the reporting period, listing of individual securities held at the end of the reporting period, average weighted yield to maturity of portfolio and investments as compared to applicable benchmarks, listing of investments by maturity date and call date, and then percentage of the total portfolio that each type of investment represents, along with the percentages authorized in the policy. And again, that's all in the policy. And the key is to get more individualized to show you the individual transactions that we're doing, because it seems to be that we have been doing it in summary for quite a while. And so call to action would be the motion before you tonight, and that would be as well as the call to action date, which is tonight. And I can take any of your questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Val?
Yeah, I'm going to assume that this monthly investment report that we have right here is an example of what we're looking at in terms of how they're investing it, and it has the date it was issued, maturity date. So this is basically an example of what we will get. Is that what you're saying?
This is more than the example. This is actually our activity in October.
Okay, so it is a monthly report then that does come forward, and it tells us the amount that was the cost and then the end of the month's return. So it's just basically what it says right there. So
Yep.
That's what you're talking about. And that has nothing to do with this? I don't know what this is.
Has nothing to do with that. I'll come back with that later.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, JC, thank you for being here. And Joel, how about you take over the consent calendar?
Thank you, Mayor. We have A through L of the consent agenda. A, resolution authorizing the city manager to contract for medical, prescription, and vision insurance for calendar year 2023. B, a resolution authorizing the city manager to contract for dental insurance for calendar year 2023. C, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with GeoTerra Incorporated for digital orthophotography, LiDAR, and impervious surface services. Item D, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with David Evans and Associates for land rezone traffic analysis services. E, resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one Portland Loo for Baker Park using the American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA funds. F, resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a building resilient infrastructure and communities BRIC grant application. G, a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application to establish a domestic violence high-risk team. What we just heard, a motion acknowledging the report of the monthly investment report, a motion approving the zone map amendment and annexation findings of fact. J, motion approving the minutes of the city council meeting, motion approving the minutes of the tourism advisory committee, and that's K and L, motion acknowledging the minutes of the collaborative economic development committee meeting of September 22nd. With that, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Valerie with the second. All right, Joel on the consent agenda, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
The motion passes 8-0. And with that, we need to adjourn the city council meeting and reconvene as the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Do we have a motion? Valerie?
I don't know what's wrong with these men, but I make a motion to adjourn this regular meeting and reconvene in the Urban Renewal Agency.
Rick with the second. Thank you. All in favor of adjourning city council, reopening as urban renewal, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. We are now meeting as the Urban Renewal Agency. It's magic. Hey,
I'm only
JC.
here to answer any questions if you have regarding why this is on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Does anybody have any questions? Well, let me just say here what we're doing, because it's just a consent calendar item, so it's a resolution. Let me pull it up here just a second. All right, so it would be a resolution establishing a managing agency agreement between the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency and the City of Grants Pass. And the motion, should you choose to make it, would be to approve the resolution for the Board of Directors of the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency, which is the Grants Pass City Council, establishing a managing agency agreement. Do you have any questions for JC regarding that? All right, would somebody like to make the motion? Oh, it's just a consent calendar item, so no public. Are you making the motion, Rick? All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution for the Board of Directors, the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency, establishing a managing agency agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second? Val, thank you. And no discussion on consent calendar items, so Rick, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
All right. That passes 8-0. And now we need to adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting, move back to the City Council meeting. Who would like to make that motion? Joel?
I make a motion to adjourn the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and reconvene the City Council. Thank you.
All right. And Rick with the second. All in favor of doing that? Say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Back to the city council meeting, and we have matters from mayor and council. Is there anything any of you wanted to bring up tonight? Brian?
Sorry, I wasn't ready. Give me just 1 second. Earlier, when we were talking about the CDBG funding, on page 36 of our packet, it referenced the funding that was given for the home bridging that we talked about earlier this year. And it says in the packet to date, the total amount of funding given to that project is $490,000 and change. And my recollection, and from what I understand, is when we talked about it, we authorized $364,000. So I'm just wondering why it's over pretty substantially the amount that we had discussed when it was in front of council.
So during the annual action plan for the 2022, I believe this topic came up. Ann's not here to kind of go into more detail, but she did include during that conversation another $125,000 was allocated as part of the program year 2022 annual action plan. And so I think that from staff's perspective, when that was addressed and that was received as confirmation that that would be approved. So we proceeded with the subrecipient agreement for a phase 2 on that project.
So subsequent phases are approved by staff and not by council?
Well, no, we had council, and we had the $125,000 amount presented as part of the annual action plan as compared to what you did during the first time, which was a separate standalone review. So it was incorporated as part of the the annual action plan as compared to a standalone review. But it was discussed and presented at council.
Okay. I don't necessarily recall that, but if you said that happened, then I believe you. So thank you.
Yep.
Anything else anyone wanted to bring up tonight? Val?
This is just kind of a random question, and it made me think about it when we were buying the lots for the reservoir that was needed. I've noticed that there's a lot of subdivisions that are kind of out in the southwest, kind of being built out and that sort of thing. And if I remember correctly, the master plan for the parks, which I don't know if they've ever gone through to completely edit it or whatever, or renew it, but I think there was a part in it that said something about that. And I remember Laura mentioning that the severe southwest part of the Redwood area did not have any parks. So that was the northeast and the far southwest as it was being built out. And I remember her saying that, that's something that really needs to be looked at as we are moving out in that direction, and that space is kind of being platted out. And so today I thought to myself, I was wondering if that was something that could be looked at in terms of a trade-off, or to try to get some parkland out there, because I don't know, I think we have some money in our parks acquisition for parks, if I'm not mistaken, and that I just happened to think about that during the time. And I've seen a lot of things coming through planning lately with subdivisions and that land kind of being filled in. So I was just going to throw it out there to be thinking about as we go out there, that acquiring some land for, even if it's just small neighborhood parks, might be something, a way to finagle and work with some of the people building and putting those lots in, even if they just put a couple lots or something park-wise. So I was just going to put that out there, be thinking about it.
All right, anything further from council tonight? Staff?
Just as a reminder for the community that tomorrow night here at 6 o'clock, we do have the strategic planning forum where we're accepting input from the community on what they'd like to have for their goals.
I think we have somebody new with us tonight.
Yes, we do have the fire chief here also with us today.
Hi, you don't have to give a speech, just wanted to acknowledge that I think this is your first council meeting, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All
And
right,
I'm
welcome.
very pleased to be here.
We got it over pretty efficiently for you. JC?
So I put this on the dais for you this evening. So as of November 10th, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics dropped the CPIU number for October, which completes our average year. And at the top of that, you can see that that will calculate to about an 8.03% increase in utility rates. Our next business meeting is until December 7th. And in order to inform the public, this will be stuffed in the first December billing, which will start on December 5th. So I wanted to make sure that you saw this before anybody else would be coming at you with this information. And this will go on the website and try and inform people as soon as possible.
Thanks. Questions? Brian?
Yeah, thank you. I just have a question about the usage charge. The per unit charge. 75 cents for the first 1 through 5 units. Is my math right? Does that work out to 1/100th of a cent per gallon?
You're going to put me on the spot with math. That sounds pretty
it
close,
does.
yeah.
Pretty close.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. How about we have a motion to move into executive session tonight?
I move that we exit meeting and enter into an executive meeting.
Second from Rick. All in favor of adjourning the council meeting, moving into executive session?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Is that Mark Wood?
All right, the council will now meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing those subjects previously noticed for this executive session, which is evaluation of the